Tuesday, May 28th, meeting of the Board of Selectmen to order. Just want to remind everyone that this meeting is being recorded. The first order of business is the board reorganization. So would I have a nomination for chair?
Mr. Chairman, I would nominate Tim Hooton to serve as chairman.
Second.
Are there any other nominations? All in favor of Tim?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations. So you can move over.
So our second order of business is to have a clerk appointed. Do I have a nomination for a clerk?
Mr. Chairman, I nominate Todd Moreski to serve as clerk.
I'll second.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Carries unanimously. All right, our first order of business then will be the warrant 1924.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Last week's warrant, 1924, on payroll was $687,235, and on bills payable, $2,989,570. Of that, $22,804 was for new cameras, some of which are in this building, or in this room. $152,491 for purchase of power, and our fourth quarter assessment for Masco at $2,353,853. Sarah Wood has reviewed and asks the board's affirmative action.
Any questions?
Move to accept as presented.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Passes unanimously. Minutes, do we have a motion on the minutes?
Sure, Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the minutes of the full meeting of May 7th, 2019.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? It passes unanimously. Town Administrator's Report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A number of updates for the board and for the public this evening. I already informed the board members, but wanted to publicly congratulate our Chief Financial Officer and Town Accountant, Sarah Wood. She recently received her credential as a certified Massachusetts municipal accountant from the Association of Municipal Auditors and Accountants. So it's a great achievement for her. Happy for her and proud of her for getting that credential. She put a lot of work into that, and not an easy.
No, it's not easy at all.
Not easy at all. So, yeah. So very happy for Sarah and proud of the work she put into that. Following Sarah's appearance last month with the board on the quarterly update, she's been working with departments to identify older capital appropriations that can be closed out. We'll have a formal update on June 18th on the fiscal 12 through 15 appropriations that we can close out. Departments have been doing a good job tying up some loose ends, so I think there'll be a number that we can close out. Yesterday, Tim, Rick, and I walked in the Memorial Day Parade. Good turnout of walkers as well as good turnout of residents watching. Appreciation, as always, goes to Ted Butler and the Parade Committee for their work organizing it, and then also Sergeant Stephanie Blazo, a Middleton resident who is I believe, a 23-year veteran of the Mass National Guard. She provided the keynote speech. Also want to give a shout out to the DPW for the condition of the parade route and Oakdale Cemetery. Really, all looked in really good shape this year. So, in addition to the parade prep and the usual activities that are going on this year, DPW's had quite a busy winter and spring. There's been a lot of transition at the top, transition among frontline employees, and as a team, they've managed it really well. Not a lot of hiccups, and they've been able to make a lot of progress on some projects. So a couple of those I want to bring to the board's attention. At Natsu Way, the shade structure is up. The posts went in last week. The canopy went on, I believe it went on yesterday. And DPW will be doing the picnic tables sometime probably, or perhaps as early as this week. And those were approved a year ago at town meeting. Kenny's working with Essex Tech to see if the masonry students can work on the wall at Oakdale. So that ties back into the, that's a fiscal 16 appropriation, but ties back into what we were talking about a minute ago with older capital appropriations. The two big projects are out to bid, North Liberty Street Bridge and Maple and Liberty Street intersection redesign. Both of those are fully or partially state-funded. North Liberty is fully state-funded, or construction's fully state-funded. Most of the design work is also state-funded. We did put a little bit of Chapter 90 into some of the preliminary survey and design work. The Maple Street, Liberty Street intersection is partially funded with state funds, partially with Chapter 90 and local improvement funds. Kenny and I are meeting next week with the Brigadoon residents to talk about the sidewalk project over there. We expect that will start this year, probably take 2 years, but we are also putting in a grant to see if we can get some funding to perhaps accelerate that, to do it all in this year. Again, getting back to older capital appropriations, the handicap ramp and sidewalk at the DPW building are in. Todd, the siding started? Did they start doing the siding yet? Not yet, okay. That's coming soon. So that, I think there's 3 appropriations for that building. So we should be able to close out some of those. And then finally, the DPW finished or corrected a persistent drainage problem at Locust and Village Road recently. It was an issue where water was breaking out, coming down the road and flooding the intersection and creating some icing problems, particularly in the wintertime. So that's been taken care of, and we hope that that's fully resolved. We informed the board recently that the back issues of the annual report have been done. Tanya has taken that on and put that all together, so that's up on the website. The solar project that we approved last year with, at the time it was HG Solar, that's been sold to Falk Renewables. Meld and Falk want to do a battery project out there. We've been working with them on an amendment to the tax agreement, so we'll probably have that probably in the next month, I would guess. Have an amendment to the agreement for the board's signature. Probably bring in another 15 or 16,000.
Do they need any other permits or permissions to do that battery project?
They don't need anything from town meeting. We checked that when we first started talking with them a couple of months ago. So it appears to be just the selectmen.
Well, town meeting gave the selectmen the authority to negotiate that,
Right.
so.
And council's opinion is that was a broad enough vote that you could amend that as well. And really, it's, the only difference from this one from the original one is the term. The original one was 25 years. This one is proposed at 20 years with a 5-year extension. If they were just going to do 25, we could have done it really by just adding the additional value to it.
Okay.
It's a pretty modest amendment, so. And then finally, I mentioned before the meeting started, we're scheduled to meet again next week. At this point, there's nothing firm available, so if the board wishes to go out until the 18th, we can manage that. 18th will be fairly busy. I think we'll have a couple of common vic applications. We'll also have our annual appointments and reappointments that Michelle is working on. She's also, it's worth pointing out, She's trying to automate that process. It will hopefully lead to a more consistent set of appointments between her office and the clerk's office. So that, that'll be on for the 18th. So, but if the board wants to take next week off, I don't think there'll be an issue with that.
Okay.
And that's what I've got for updates.
Any questions?
No, none.
And the board's in agreement, we won't be meeting next week?
No, that's fine.
We will not be meeting next week. Okay, our next agenda item is to proudly recognize Patricia Olson for her years of service to the town, and I would ask Brad Swanson to come on in.
I've been off my rocker for years.
Took the words right out of our mouths.
Brad, go right ahead, why don't
Thank you
you?
very, very
You make
much.
the presentation, go ahead.
Well, on behalf of the town and Board of Assessors, we wanted to offer this lovely chair with the town seal and your name and years of service on the back.
Thank you so much.
That's not supposed to show.
You have to sit in it,
Oh, I have to sit in.
then we'll have another.
We
This
have a
is
couple-
like when you serve in a president's cabinet. When you retire, you get your chair with your title and years of service on the back, so,
Don't they get 200,000 in retirement?
yeah, close. But you actually did a lot more
Drop a
work.
few zeros. Some years it felt that way.
It sure did, I'm sure.
Yeah. Some
Brad, you
years.
want to invite him out to read the proclamation?
Okay. Did you guys
Do
have one
do you
too?
want me to
We
move over there?
do, but it's not here.
Somebody got that. Well, then you
That
could,
somebody is me.
well, anyways, there is something from the town, but it's not here. But we do have
Okay.
Mr. Curran here from Senator Tarr's office.
Oh, okay.
Present a couple of different things from the State House.
Sit down.
Oh,
Sit down. Please be seated. Godfrey, never in my wildest dreams would I ever imagine that the woman who waited on me so many times, the Bob Stool, would have had such an important position here in this town. By the way, Mr. Chairman, congratulations. You ran a tough campaign to get the chairmanship.
Yes, it was the.
I know there was an awful lot of nasty tweets that were flitting back and forth, but I'm glad to see that you made it. Well, Patricia, this is not only, this is a privilege and an honor. And as I look at the years of service that you've given to the town, I can't help but think that you loved your job
I did.
and you definitely loved your town.
I do.
Now, my question would be, along with the chair, does she get a lifetime pass to Richardson Dairy?
She can go there anytime she wants.
Anytime she wants.
I think that's a pass.
Okay.
From the House, from the House of Representatives, be it hereby known that to all, that the Massachusetts House of Representatives offers its sincerest congratulations to Patricia A. Olson in recognition of your retirement after 13 terms on the Board of Assessors and your many years of outstanding service to the town of Middleton. The entire membership extends its very best wishes and expresses the hope future good, continued success in all endeavors, and it's signed by the Representative Theodore Spiliotis. This 14th day of May, which I think was supposed to be the original date, Robert DeLeo, the Speaker of the House, and Brad Jones, the Representative.
Thank you very much.
Number one. And also from the Senate, Massachusetts Senate, I have one here for you. And be it known, the Massachusetts Senate hereby extends its congratulations to Patricia A. Olson for recognition of your 45 years of dedicated and distinguished services to the town of Middleton. And be it further known that the Massachusetts Senate extends its best wishes for continued success, that this citation be duly signed by the President of the Senate and attested to, and a copy thereof transmitted by the clerk of the Senate. It is signed by the Senate President, Karen Spilka, the clerk of the Senate, Michael Hurley, Senator Bruce Tarr,
Thank you.
from the Senate, and from the Governor's Office, Commonwealth of Massachusetts, to Patricia A. Olson. On behalf of the citizens of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, I am pleased to confer upon you this Governor's citation in recognition of your numerous years of dedicated and committed service to the town of Middleton, this 14th day of May 2019. It's signed by Governor Baker and Lieutenant Governor Karen Polito.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Pat, we just want to thank you. I mean, unlike us, our faces are plastered everywhere. You were always a person that, did great work, but so much of it was behind the scenes. People don't realize all that went into it. I think people only knew you as someone that volunteered, like the Pumpkin Festival didn't realize what you did for the town, but we who were involved in the town always knew what you did, and we just really appreciated it. It's so great, people that give up their time and give so much, so we do appreciate it, so.
Thank you.
Tim, could I say something?
Sure.
Pat, I remember the day in September of '96 that I first met you. There was an opening on the board, and, I came to the selectmen's meeting, and, I was appointed. And then before that even happened, you came up to me and introduced yourself and, started telling me about what it involved to be on the Board of Assessors, which I greatly appreciated. And over the next 18 years that we were served on the board together, you always taught me things about, Middleton and the assessing operation, and I greatly appreciate it. I think, the department and the board will greatly miss you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to greatly miss the board. Excuse me. These years, I didn't get to be an assessor on my own. I was called by Dick Adjution because the clerk of the Middleton Board of Assessors had accepted another position, and would I fill in for just a brief time until they could hire someone. And the ads didn't go in, and the ads didn't go in, and finally, when the ad went in, I was hooked. And I went into the office, I believe, in November of '78, and in August or September of '80, I earned my MAA. And I can truly say that I love all aspects of real estate, because I've really done it all. I was in Century 21 selling listing. I was doing appraisals. I also was a direct endorsement underwriter for FHA, so I knew the banking route of that. But I had so many people that helped me along the way. I can remember the very first assessors, and I'm forgetting one name, but it was Dawn Aylwood and Dick Adjution. Of course, then the board evolved. Costa was on, George Farley was on. So many people have served in so many capacities, and all of them have helped me endure and love assessing. So I thank each and every one of you. It's quite an honor. Thank you.
Congratulations. So Pat, now that you have a little bit of free time, we're always looking for volunteers for other boards and committees.
Right this minute, I have 2 granddaughters and 2 great-grandchildren, and one of our granddaughter's cats living with us right now, because they've sold their homes and they're looking for the next ones, but had no place to go. So we have a very full house,
Well, that's gonna be
as
exciting.
usual.
That's gonna be
So
exciting.
the youngest granddaughter called and said, I'm going to be coming on from Arkansas. They have to be out in June. So no pressure. But life is full and wonderful.
Well, thank you for everything.
And I have to say, the highlight of my entire time in Middleton was at our town meeting when we finally passed the override for a new center. I mean, I have waited 50 years for that night, and it was wonderful. And I thank each and every one of you for making that possible for the town. It's long overdue, badly needed, but greatly appreciated. So,
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
thank
Pat.
you.
Thank you.
Now, you know, your job is, you tell him his job is to carry that thing.
Yeah, you have to carry that out.
Because you know he's not going to help you.
Actually, both of them are going to carry you out with you in it, like a queen.
I probably should have thanked him, too, for all the Tuesday nights he sat alone. Okay, well, thank
you,
you
Pat.
again.
Thanks, Pat.
All right, while you're doing that, we'll just, we'll go on and take the vote to designate a member to sign payroll warrants during July and August.
Should you, since we're not gonna be meeting next week, that is.
June, July, and August.
June, July, August.
As amended.
So, Mr. Chairman, I would vote to designate Costa Printakis as the one member to sign vendor and payroll warrants during the months of June, July, and August.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Yeah, you're not going to second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. All right, on our next agenda item, do we make the clerk, or are we going to make, Fry, you want to?
I'll take it over.
Okay. Why don't you, I have a conflict on this one, so I'm just going to step out for this one, and then I'll be back, but you can just take the next agenda item.
You got it. Okay, next agenda item that we have is an application for a one-day liquor license at House Station Market for the exterior premises, which is located at 229 Maple Street. We're joined here this evening by its manager, Deepak Karia, of Liv Kush Marketing Incorporated, and this is for the date of June 1st, 2019. So I'd invite you up before the board. We have your application in front of us. This is asking for a one-day beer and wine license that would allow several different licensed wholesalers and distributors, specifically Seaboard Products and Merrimack Valley Distributing, to have an ability to have that as well as a food truck that will be located at your facility, located at 229 Maple Street on June 1st. I noticed that on your application, there is no entrance fee for anybody that participates in this tasting event, but you are requesting a minimum donation that would be able to be contributed, I think you said here, to Middleton Police Department. So if you could explain a little bit to us, beyond the application that we have in front of us, what this will entail, what the time of the event will be, and what to expect.
Okay, good evening. I'm Deepak Karia from House Station Market. We have the, like a Saturday, June 1st, 1 to 4. We have the beer tasting only. Beer and wine tasting, like we are accepting like 30, 40 brewery gonna come there. Like all different craft beer brewery gonna be there. They're gonna serve only 2 ounce for the tasting only. They can't drink like even though they buy the product from the store, they can't open it in the parking lot or like that. That all gonna be in the premise of the house station, in the back side of the house station parking lot. And we're gonna do the registration. Each and every person come. We're gonna register their name. We're gonna stamp them. We're gonna check the age. Should be the 21. Whoever have the stamp, they can only get the tasting. So nobody can just sneak in and try like a taste or anything. And we accepting, like we ask them to $5 per person to donate the Middleton Police Department. Now for that, my son leave the 3-time message to the chief, but I will go tomorrow personally, talk to the chief, and he must be gonna be happy, I hope. And second thing, the food truck we are talking is not confirmed yet, because until I don't get approved from the board today, I don't want to, they people are busy too, but I will try to call them tomorrow, and hopefully we can get the food truck they have to get the 1-day license, permit, that they have to pay $25 for 3 hour even to stop there. That,
So, and that point on the food truck, would that have to, that would just be a one-day license before the Board of Health, correct?
Yes, yeah, through
There's
Yeah.
nothing that would have to come before us?
yeah,
Okay. And I know you were saying at this time, you were thinking it was gonna be the all-purpose bakery food truck, at least what was in your application before us.
we are talking, we
Yeah.
keep talking, but until we don't get approval from the board,
So if I could ask, if you do get a food truck to confirm, where will that food truck be located?
in the side of the building,
Okay, the side parking lot there?
side parking lot, yeah.
Okay. One of the questions I'd have is, I would expect over from 1 to 4 PM, and you stated how many different, I know there's several distributors that will be bringing their wares there, but how many small craft breweries and others, how many different tastings do you
20
expect?
to 25
20 to
accepting.
25, so I expect you, doing this for a whole slew of reasons. One of them is to bring a crowd in to taste different
Exactly.
beers and wine. What is the plan for parking?
We talk, the beginning, daycare center on the side of the building,
Okay.
they are happy to help me out, because Saturday they don't park, is empty. We talk to them, 1 to 4, they are allow me. Dunkin' Donut, they are allow me that they can use, let me park the cars for the people who stop by there. And side of the building, 3 of them verbally agree that they don't mind for 1 to 4, they can let me park. Even the Gordon Daycare Center, they allow me, they are happy to give me the permission.
So this is the daycare center facing your building, 2 buildings?
If I
in a row.
need that,
Okay.
if I need more parking, then most of that, we gonna use the beginning, magical beginning daycare on the side of that. And on the side of the building, plus Dunkin' Donut parking lot, they are happy.
And are you going to have staff or volunteers there that will help direct people where to park? I mean, one of the concerns I
Yeah.
have, and I won't speak for the rest of the board members, but one of the concerns I have is that there may be folks parking around illegally or parking where
No.
they, I know you want to be a good neighbor to your fellow businesses that are around there, you know, CVS, Farmer Brown's, and
yeah.
others. The other concern I would have is, while we do have crosswalks there, I just want to make sure that we are not setting something up where, because I don't know what to expect for a crowd at something like this.
I agree.
And I don't know if, you know, Seaboard Products and Merrimack Valley Distributing, the 2 licensed host sailors that will be a part of this, I don't know if they've given you some type of insight into what you might expect for attendance at this. Is this a 20 people? Is this a 500 people?
See, this is the first time we are doing, and we are accepting whatever we think they're not going to come on the same time. Is the 1 to 4 between, they're gonna come. But we are like 7 to 10 people volunteer to help them where to park and what to do. And there is a registration table. Over there gonna be 2 people all the time, include me, who have training that they knows how to serve and like that. We're gonna check the ID and everything there. We're gonna stamp that people and then they can go. So there is a plan, my whole family and my friends who can help me out in the volunteer. Some of the brewery people gonna help me to goes smoothly. That's why we are trying. I don't want that any neighbor get all that thing, no.
You're gonna,
Dot.
sorry, Brian, you say 20 to 30 vendors, and they're gonna be in that little side parking lot where your dumpster is?
Yeah, that, they don't want the 20 or 30 tables. 4 people can stop, do in the one table, the tasting.
So there'll be one table for tasting or
No, no,
multiple
no.
tables?
Tasting gonna be like 6, 8 tables, but on one table, 3 or 4 brewery people can stand with their product, and they can do the tasting like that. It won't cover the whole area or like that.
Well, I mean, yeah, the parking is the thing that concerns me, the most. And I know you've mentioned that you've talked to certain of your neighbors about, them letting you use their
Yeah,
parking.
they all are happy to.
So I would just ask that you provide, something, in writing from those neighbors so that we know who has given you the permission to use, their land, to park.
That's why I'm right on they give me the verbal permission. And I'm mentioning the name also, who give me the permission. And
So I think the reason why he's asking this, and I agree with him on this, is, with upwards of 40 or so different vendors that will be here, there's a possibility you could have a very large crowd. And I hope you have a large crowd. I think this will be good for your business and good to draw people into town. And I
For the
hope
town.
after they stop by House Station, they go to Dunkin' Donuts and get coffee and go over to Farmer Brown's and buy some produce and shop elsewhere in town. I hope that happens.
Yeah.
I think the concern is that if it becomes a parking issue and different owners of property or others are reporting this to the police, we want to ensure that there is actually approval granted, i.e. that Great Expectations Preschool, Dunkin' Donuts, have both actually granted permission for vehicles to park there. Because, what I don't want is you to be trying to have a successful event and the police having to arrive because, the owner of Dunkin' Donuts is concerned that his parking lot is full with his non-customers and a customer can't come in, or people are over parking somewhere else. So I think if we could get some clarity on this, I'm personally not opposed to this at all. I think this will be great for the town and great for your business. I think we just want to make sure that that we're on the same page here, that if you have a verbal commitment from Great Expectations and you have a commitment from, I think you said Dunkin' Donuts, we'd like to see that that'll be the case. Because, unfortunate, and you deal with this in your business every day, there's not a lot of parking where you are. There's a couple of spots on the street, and you have a few spots in your lot. But there's a possibility this could get overwhelmed pretty quickly if this becomes a heavily attended event, again, that I hope becomes a well-attended event. So I think what you're asking, Costa, is for some type of confirmation that that parking can actually occur. So we as a town are prepared should complaints come in, or if there's a parking issue around there, and the police department have to respond. And I think it'll make for a much cleaner process.
so.
Is there,
Can I make a suggestion? Sure. I don't know if it helps, if it's applicable, maybe you could create, in other words, maybe you could just draw up a letter, you've spoken to the people, right, they give you maybe you can draw up a letter
Yeah,
that states that again, and perhaps have them
yeah,
sign it and identify, would that,
yeah.
you know what I mean, you don't have to get one from each, maybe if you
No,
just do
no,
it
no.
like that, I think
I'm gonna get
that would help us.
the business people who is happy to give me,
Right.
even my neighbors, whoever ready to give, they can sign it. They give me the verbally, so I'm talking.
And honestly,
Yeah, it makes it easier if then you do it than they do it.
Sure.
Because what you don't want is, let's just say they're parking somewhere they shouldn't, or there was a miscommunication.
No.
If somebody
I-
calls and the police arrive, those vehicles will be removed, and that'll
I
just put a
understand.
damper on the entire event.
I understand that.
Okay.
I will make that thing done and I will submit in the morning.
Yeah.
That,
Okay, and one last thing, I'm not saying this because I want to jinx this, but is there a rain date, should Mother
No.
Nature not
Not yet.
comply?
Don't need one.
And hopefully, I saw that.
They're all set.
I'm all set.
Is that what the meteorologists say? Because they're always correct.
Well,
Okay. Okay, are there any other questions?
don't need a police detail or anything for people that parking lot? Somebody's gonna come around that corner, we see it every day. They come around that corner
Well,
heading down Gregory
it is a
Street.
concern, and.
Somebody's
and-
gonna step out when they're on the edge of that parking lot,
Right.
tipping a beer back.
And as Deepak said, he hasn't had a chance to talk to the chief yet. The chief was away last week at a conference, so that piece of it does need to be ironed out. If the chief determines that a detail is required, he can order that.
Okay.
So to Mr. Moreski's point, while you and your other staff are helping to point out folks where they park, just be really vigilant that, A, they're parking in lots that you have approval to, but where the spots are in front or on the side that are actually legal spots there. I mean, there may be somebody that pulls in, thinks, I can just park here, I'm gonna run in, I wanna taste something and buy something. You really gotta be vigilant on it because, 1 to 4 on a Saturday is a busy time around there as well. And we want this to go off without a hitch.
And most of the time, your concern, and same thing, I concern that too. So most of we want to use on the side of that people don't need to cross. But in case we need like overflow, then we're gonna let them use the dunking on it and like that. So we're gonna be like 8-10 people controlling, and even though not goes more than 15-20 people to the tables, we're gonna control that whole thing.
Okay, so if there are any other questions, I would entertain a motion if there is one.
I make a motion to grant a one-day liquor license at House Station Market for the exterior of the premises at 229 Maple Street for June 1st, 2019, from 1 to 4, provided that a police detail is provided if the police chief deems it necessary, and written permissions from neighbors are provided as to where people can park on those businesses' lots.
Did our clerk get all of that? Okay, so we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second. Any further discussion? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, if any? Okay, it passes. Okay, thank you. Good luck. Okay, we'll be moving to the next item. I know Chairman Hooton will be back in.
Not the same day.
And I will relinquish my gavel.
No, different day.
Got it.
This weekend after.
Okay, we're on item number 5, Tim.
Our next agenda item is an application for a one-day liquor license at 8-10 Village Road for the area located on the corner of Coppermine Road and Locust Street, known as the Driving Range, by Ron Rice, manager of SD Management LLC, associated with the Bork Family Foundation Road Race, which will be on June 8th, 2019. And my understanding is that they happened to pick the one location that wasn't covered by their regular liquor license to serve beer on it.
They can, under their regular license, they can serve pretty much anywhere on their property with the exception of this one parcel. So,
Because we do a summer license for them as well.
correct.
All right, do I have a motion to approve the application for a one-day liquor license?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the application for a one-day liquor license at 8-10 Village Road at the area located at the corner of Coppermine Road and Locust Street, known as the Driving Range, for SD Management LLC, and that this will be associated with the Bork Foundation Road Race that is being held at the same date, June 8th.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Our next agenda item is to review and discuss the May 14th, 2019 annual town meeting and annual town election. We won. Okay, let's go on to the next agenda item.
Magnanimous.
Much more important than you winning is the fact that we have a town moderator that was written in and accepted the
And that was,
office.
and I tell you, that was exceptional, was the fact that all the people got together and wrote people in. I think, that's democracy, the small d democracy at its best. People saying there was a need, so some people stepped up and said, well, put my name in. Other people said, don't put my name in, but
But they put them in anyways.
it would have been anyway.
No, we had some people
Yeah,
elected,
so
nope.
Barb Pacelli has She received the most write-in votes for moderator. She has accepted the position and took the oath last week. There were a number of write-in candidates for a number of different offices. That always makes for a long night for the clerk's office and all the volunteers, or all the election workers. So they were here, I think, until about 11 o'clock, which is probably 2 hours later than they would have been without write-ins. But otherwise, there weren't a lot of contested races. The one thing I will add about the election, I think the election turnout was about 6%. Town meeting was 118, I believe. So we barely got the quorum. We've talked a lot in the last few years about trying to increase participation, and obviously we've got work to do there. When you think about town meeting, it's sort of understandable with the election because there weren't a lot of contested races. But with town meeting approved about $40 million worth of spending, and 118 or thereabouts people did all of that for the other 6,600 registered voters. So we'll continue our efforts to increase participation. Maybe it's just that things are going so well that everybody's happy with it, and we should shut up.
So I think the apathy is not that. I mean, we had a special town meeting earlier this spring that we had a very robust attendance and discussion, albeit the item passed by a pretty fairly decent margin, so it was not that there was a lot of conflict around it. And the year before, we had another special town meeting that was extremely well attended. So, and we've had some municipal election ballots that we've seen surely higher than 6%. I got to think that as a town, we can do better than that on actually getting to the polls and vote. We do better in the November elections than others, but I'll state, I see a lot on social media, folks that are expressing concern or support for articles or items that are happening in town. There's no better place to show your support or opposition at the ballot box, and more importantly, at town meeting, where democracy really sits in this town. And so I would not state that it was through a lack of communication or transparency. I mean, the work you've done, Andy, over the last several town meetings, since you've come into this role of educating folks, the video discussions on the budgets you've done, the pre-town meeting discussions you've done. I look at the times that you go around to different groups and organizations and neighborhoods in town to present articles and items, I think is only good for bringing participation. And I am going to chalk up our 6% turnout in our 118 individual turnout to town meeting that folks feel that there was not a lot of controversy there, that they felt, I think our budget passed unanimously.
Correct.
So
And this is the first time I remember that people wanted, to get right to the vote on the budget without, even, reviewing,
Now, we were competing against Bruins playoff hockey,
And we'll try to schedule like that in the future as well.
Well, it's really hard, we keep winning, so.
Monday Night Football or,
But it's been 4 months since
The last championship. I hear you.
Parade, so.
Drought.
That was my favorite T-shirt. We've got to stop the drought. It's been
104 days.
days.
Yeah.
But, one thing, I know that some communities have done away with the quorum, and they've
Correct.
had participation actually increase. So, can you get us some more specifics on the towns that have done away with quorums recently, and what their experience, has been, and how it was received by the community after it was done?
One thing I can say anecdotally is when that question is put on the warrant, you tend to get a very good turnout at that point. I saw that firsthand in another community.
So in my recollection,
Yeah, we
since
can-
I've lived
we'll
in this
find
town, there's been
data.
some times where we've started a few minutes late due to our quorum issues. I know during some of the bigger town meeting, and especially special town meetings, during the Natsu Way discussions, during many of the discussions we had when both the library and the school overrides were being proposed, there were different activities that happened with daycare at the school down in the gymnasium and other, I mean, not in the gymnasium, in the cafeteria, albeit we now use that as an overflow area, but maybe it could be the library and otherwise. So, I mean, maybe there's a discussion that can be had there to maybe offer that not just when, or help folks that can offer that not just when there's big, wide-ranging controversial discussion items, but make that part and parcel of town meeting.
Yeah, the other thing, and we'll look into that as well. The other thing I'll add is we often hear, it's too hard during the week because we have to get our kids to bed, or, we have to leave too early in the morning to get to work. Why can't we do it on Saturday? A lot of towns have done that, either made that switch or have historically met on Saturday. It's often the same kinds of issues because you're up against Little League or soccer or dance. At the time of our town meeting is dance recital time, it's piano recital time, so there's no perfect day for town meeting.
And I think town elections will be helped if we were able to change the location.
I think so, too. Yeah.
People, there's a certain amount of people that just don't like pulling into that school when if we could move it to a location that.
Yeah.
And I think Andy, it happens monthly. It's not just a once or twice a year town meeting that occurs too. There's a lot. Life is busy for people to make the various
Absolutely.
meetings, that I'm aware, I know you're aware of, that, there is seldom the perfect time.
Yeah. So, okay, we'll do a little work on that. I didn't have anything else in particular to talk about with respect to town meeting or the election, other than really the attendance.
Yep, great.
Thank you.
All right, then we'll go on to our next agenda item, which is to discuss the parameters and comparable communities for a limited classification plan. Is this yours?
So it is, I'll give a little bit of background. So it's come up in our budget conversations a couple of times about, as we get requests to revisit the salary and wages for particular people, particular positions, some frustration about, why are we doing these one-off reclassifications? So we started looking into that. Tanya can speak a little bit more to that. If we're going to do it, we want to do it in a sort of systematic approach.
So, what we've been discussing is the possibility of doing it for department heads and assistant or deputy department heads, which actually is a significant portion of the town, because if you consider there's a lot of unions that we do a similar work with, but this would be another major portion of our workforce. So that's what we were thinking, particularly because there are some, these are, larger salaries, and we've got some discrepancies in our department head salaries. So typically, I don't know how many of you are familiar with how you might go about doing a classification compensation plan, but one of the first steps would be to take a look at comparable communities, comparable towns, and then send out a survey to them. How much do you pay? What are your groupings? What are your hours? Those sorts of things, to survey these towns. So in terms of looking at comparable communities, sometimes towns just have, a basket that they use all the time, or we'll look at our comps, which I think might be a good idea for us going forward, to say these are the 12 towns, or however many we might choose, that we always look at because we think these are the best comps, or at least just to use it for this particular study, so that I know which towns I'm going to be sending out this email to, so that we know that when we get data back, oh, those actually are ones we should look at. We're not going to look at Cambridge and say it's comparable. So what I put together in this little memo that you have in front of you are 15 possible ones, thinking that we might choose 10 or 12 of these, depending on sort of what your reaction to these are. Just so you know how I took a look at them, my populations are between 5 and 20,000. They're all either in Essex or Middlesex counties. Then I looked at some other different characteristics to make sure that they had similar incomes per capita, single-family tax bills, things like that. This is by no means perfect. There's no perfect comp for us, but these at least have some characteristics in common with Middleton. So I don't know if we want to go into this in detail now, or
No, I
if
don't
there
think
are
we need
ones
to.
that stick out.
I don't think we need to go town by town, but I'd ask, are all, if not most of these towns, a single tax rate?
Oh, that's a good question. All the detail is available if you want to go online. If you thought that it was important for us to look at only single tax rates, that might eliminate a few of them,
I
but.
mean, I'm not sure that it is, but I think if they are the percentage of commercial, industrial in the tax base, is relevant. Like, Boxford on that score is not relevant because, especially if you're looking at the assessing operation, Boxford has no need for commercial assessing, whereas a part of ours, and for other functions, like if you're doing something with the DPW, the amount of road miles that they have to take care of, the amount of, parks, or in public spaces that becomes, more relevant than others. If you're talking about, a CFO department, that those kind of factors become less relevant. So I'm not sure that we can have one group of communities for all the various comparisons that we want to look at.
But, well, I think if you have one group that we're consistently pulling from, understanding that, and I think you're right on the DPW front. I mean, we can look at these towns and, I'm just using this for example. One of these towns may have a full-blown water department, a full-blown sewer department. I mean, we have a water department, it's a one-man
have
band.
public buildings.
Yeah, you might have, the DPW may be managing the maintenance of the schools, for example, in the public, not just public facilities. When I first looked at this list, I was wondering why Linfield wasn't on there, but that's why I asked the question of a split tax rate. I will tell you that, Linfield for the longest period of time didn't have a split tax rate because it didn't look a lot different than us. They had some commercial industrial on Route 1, and then all of a sudden Market Street arose, and they split their tax rate because they had a much significant larger base of business, commercial, and industrial. Because of that they've seen a bit of a windfall from that. If we went to a split tax rate, would probably be disastrous to our tax revenue base. So I like the idea, and I mean, I've been clamoring for this for a while because what I don't like is when we start to discuss looking at comparables, whether it's for salaries or looking for staffing or other items, it ends up becoming a apples to oranges comparison. I mean, when I was in Wakefield, they always used to talk about comparing us to the Middlesex League. And you were comparing that to Burlington, Woburn, that had...
Winchester, Lexington.
Well, Winchester, Lexington that had a tax base that didn't compare on residential to Wakefield, but Woburn and Burlington that had a substantial commercial industrial that they could never compare. And that was always the go-to. And I think many times when we are discussing times when we're hiring new department heads of really where we should be on salary, yeah, sometimes the market's going to dictate it, but sometimes we need some comparisons. And what I don't want is the comparisons to be cherry-picked of, let's find the town that has the lower paid staff and use that as an experience, or let's compare us to, Andover, or compare us to, Peabody in terms of staffing. It's an apples to oranges. So I think if we can get to at least a cohort of towns, we're always drawing from similar. And so if if we have to make a decision on DPW, we look at within this cohort and say which of the 3, 4 towns have similar highway lane miles, have a similar areas that they maintain or don't maintain.
You mentioned that these towns are in the 5 to 20,000 in terms of popular. If you narrowed that to 7 to 15, how many of those would get eliminated?
I imagine probably 3 or 4 of them, yeah.
So
That might be a way if you wanted. I just know that some of them geographically, are closer to the South Shore. That might be a reason you're not interested in them. But that might be a perfectly valid way to take a few out. You might want to keep all of these because keep in mind, I'm going to email all these places and call them, but they might not all respond to me. So sometimes it's nicer to have a bigger set rather than a smaller
Yeah, I have a
set.
feeling what we would lose here would be North Reading, Swampscott.
And Ashland, I
Probably.
think.
And on the smaller side, I think Rowley,
Raleigh, Newbury, maybe. Newbury, maybe. I'm not sure about Raleigh.
Yeah.
Georgetown.
It's tough. There's.
Forget where
No,
Georgetown
no, I
is.
think Georgetown's about 7, 8,000.
And there's never a perfect basket of comparables, so.
No, I mean, if you looked at every town that has the same population of us numbers, it's
No.
gonna be apples and oranges.
Um,
And actually, our town is technically about 1,000 less than we count, because there's 1,000 of our residents that will never leave their building, known as the Essex County Correctional Facility.
They do, there's a yard.
Yes, they have a yard, and every once in a while they're in a van, but other than that,
They never come to town meeting.
yes. No, they don't, at least from that precinct.
I don't think we want them.
I wanted to ask you if there's any towns that you know of that you think should be on this list that aren't on there, because I'm.
I've had the same experience having done this for, whether it be town administrators, whether it be fire chiefs or whatever, it's all, the meld, we look at it and you say, okay, their foreman and our foreman, then you find out that their foreman doesn't do any stick work, doesn't do any of the, and it's like, okay, so they're not the same job, even they're called the same job, so, no, they're fine, I just know that the devil's in the details, and that's what you're gonna be doing.
I think we need one because everyone that's come for us, whether it's been a union in town employee or an individual department head, has presented us with their own compensation classification. So something, however dynamic or broad, only serves us well to have it to respond with.
Okay, so anyone want to eliminate, just go forth and
I'm
try
comfortable
this?
with the list. I mean, I think maybe, just because it might be geographically, maybe because I don't go through Hopkinton, Holliston, or Ashland regularly. All of these other towns I've been through a lot because they're in the nearby, and I see the similarities. But, I mean, I like the methodology you use both on population and how you exempted and included with both similar and dissimilar characteristics. I mean, like I said, my first thought was Linfield, but I actually discounted it because of their change in their tax rate, because they've seen I mean, if you look at their tax base over the last 5 to 7 years, it's changed pretty dramatically in Linfield. And I like some of these have regional schools, some of them don't. I think that this is a good comparison. And this doesn't mean that when we're doing a survey if we're hiring a new, I don't even want to say the department head because I'll jinx it, but if we're hiring a new department head, that doesn't mean that we're going to pay them based solely on these towns. This is going to be another guiding principle. But I think we need some type of tool when department heads come in and say, well, this is what I think I'm worth. And they're using, Burlington,
Linfield.
Woburn, Linfield, and Andover as a basis. We at least have something that we are using as a standard here in the town.
Great, so I think you,
Okay, away we go.
there you go, you did a good job.
Yeah, this is good, thank you.
All right, our next agenda item is to authorize the town administrator to execute a contract with design consultant for the master development plan at 105 South Main Street.
So I wish I was here to tell you who that is. We're not, and so for this one and for item 9, this is sort of reflective of the summer schedule that's coming upon us. Particularly all 3 projects really, they're all time sensitive in one fashion or another. If the board is comfortable authorizing me to sign for the design consultant, it will be based on the recommendation of the Master Development Planning Committee. which has begun its review of the 12 proposals that were submitted. The other two, the Maple Street, Liberty Street intersection project and North Liberty Bridge, those are based on low bid. Whoever the low qualified bidder is.
Have you had site visits by by potential bidders for Maple, Liberty, and North Liberty?
No. I don't think there is one scheduled for Liberty and Maple. I believe there is one scheduled for North Liberty, but I don't remember when that is.
Have you had a decent
had
number of,
interest.
you've had a
Yeah,
decent
had
number of
some
interest and
interest.
requests for bid packages? Okay.
Yeah, I think they just hit the paper this week, or hit the Central Register this week, so, or late last week, so we've already had some interest.
Yeah, what's the timeline of the committee to work on the master development proposal?
So I would expect, or I'm hopeful that in the meeting that they have next week and the following week, which is June 12th maybe, that they will have narrowed it down to 3 at that point, and then they'll schedule interviews with 3 finalists. They're required to pick 3, rank those 3, and then interview them. Or excuse me, pick 3 to interview and then rank from there.
So,
But then where the interviews fall is kind of where the concern is. That's a short window between their meeting on 2 weeks from tonight, I guess it would be, and when the board meets again.
so do you believe that you, on item 8 here in the design consultant, that we, as a town, should be at a signed contract with a consultant by July 1, or?
I would hope that we're close to a signed contract around July 1. Yeah.
And if we do get to that by July 1, when do we think that consultant will have, what's our time frame for the consulting having that final recommendation and report back?
It's going to be snug to get a town meeting this fall, to be ready for a town meeting this fall. Most of them have talked about a 4 or 5 month period, or 3 to 5 months period to do the study. So it gets a little dicier in the summertime with schedules and things like that. Trying to get public input. So, we're hopeful that in October we'd get at least a draft and maybe even a final. But a lot of it'll depend on who we pick and when we issue the notice to proceed.
Okay.
All right, do we have a motion to authorize the town administrator?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we authorize the town administrator to execute a contract with a design consultant for the master development plan at 105 South Main Street.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any further comment? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None? Carries unanimously. Do I have a motion for item 9 to authorize the town administrator to execute the Maple Street and North Liberty Street contracts?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we authorize the town administrator to execute contracts for the 2 construction projects, the Maple Street, Liberty Street intersection improvements with bids due June 6th, and the North Liberty Street replacement with bids due June 25th.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None? Passes unanimously.
And then there was one item added to the agenda. I took the liberty of adding an acceptance of a food donation.
I was
food
just about to start
bank.
singing it too, but no,
Please, don't let me, do you need a note? What note would you like?
He's not going to be able to carry it anyway, so.
yeah. No, I was afraid you'd call me a hot dog. So we'll, boom. We have a motion to accept the donation by Music for
Mr.
Food.
Chairman, I move that we approve and with thanks, a donation for the Music of Food, from the Music of Food, which was an activity that was done by the students in the music programs at Masconomet Regional High School, and that donation to the Middleton Food Bank is in the amount of $1,333.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none, it passes unanimously. New business. Does anybody, Costa, anything? New business? New business?
The only new business I have is to congratulate our two returning members to the board that, Tim and Rick, that ran for reelection and were reelected and brought back to the board. Great to have you two back serving alongside.
Great,
Thank
thank you.
you.
All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, all those in favor? Aye. It doesn't need to be second, we stand adjourned.